everyone, and welcome back to another episode of House to Home, a podcast brought to you by Family Policy Alliance Foundation. My name is Grace Youngson, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Joseph Kohm, and we're super excited because we have a very special guest who is a member of our own team on with us today, Dylan Jeremiah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Grace and Joseph. I appreciate you all having me here, and I'm excited to share about a lot of the things that are going on here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we're so excited to get into it. I think it's long overdue that you come on the podcast. So,
Certainly.
as our Director of Government Affairs, you really supervise all of our engagement at that federal level. And I know there's so much going on at the moment, particularly with regards to the big, beautiful bill. So that's a big subject in the media right now. I would love to hear FPAF's take on this and how big of a win has this been for families, Dylan?
Certainly. So, we've been working through this process ever since the election results back in November. So when we saw that, we were going to have allies in the White House and the Senate and in the House of Representatives, we knew that we had a huge opportunity. And I like to think that we brought an absolute massive win home to the American people. So just with regards to families specifically, and this is like the president says, like you hear in the media, it is truly one big, beautiful bill. So no matter what your interests are, chances are it's been touched by this bill. But with regards to families, really, really awesome stuff. So not only did we make previously the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, we made those tax cuts permanent. So that's the largest tax cut in American history, which is absolutely awesome. That means moms and dads are going to have more money in their pockets to be able to help out with their kids, do things around the house, you name it. But also a new addition there, we increased the child tax credit, which is a huge idea that started underneath Republican and conservative leadership. And so that was increased, which is awesome. So again, moms and dads are going to feel the assistance there. Something new as well, we started something called the MAGA accounts. So this establishes a savings account for newborns to help support their growth and advancement as they begin to grow up. Also, we increased the access to the adoption tax credit. So in conjunction with defunding Planned Parenthood, which was another big win, I think that we're helping to promote pro-life culture with increasing access to this adoption tax credit. So that makes the credit more usable for all families, and it opens up more homes to the joys of adoption and championing the sanctity of life. So really, really exciting stuff there. And then as a bit of the cherry on top too, we're building on top of those previous tax cuts, and we're creating incentives for organizations to offer paid leave and childcare and a litany of other things. But those are just a few of the big wins in the big, beautiful bill.
Boy, lots of pro-family incentives in there, Dylan. I'm glad to have you on the show to talk more about some of these because, you and I work a lot together privately. This will be fun to talk publicly about some of the things we and mostly you have been doing. The tax cuts especially, boy, if that doesn't make you smile, as the old Disney movie says, praise the Lord and pass the tax rebate. So a lot of great news there for families. I do want to drill down onto one specific provision that a lot of our listeners have joined us in praying for many decades, literally. And there's a lot of, consequently, misinformation about it. And here at House to Home, Grace and I are all about cutting through misinformation as usual. So that regards to how well or not the big, beautiful bill defunds Planned Parenthood and quote unquote big abortion. So some people say it does, people say it doesn't. There's just a lot of misinformation out there, which is something the abortion industry has always been excellent at, is hiding the truth and putting forward lies. So set the record straight for our audience who really cares about this and unborn life. Does the big, beautiful bill defund Planned Parenthood? If so, how effectively does it do that?
Yes, indeed it does. There was certainly lots of back and forth because this is such a hot button issue. So as negotiations were going on and votes and all the back and forth in the House and in the Senate, there was lots of different ideas of what this might look like. And so originally, when the bill came out of the House, this was going to be defunding Planned Parenthood for 10 years. The Senate's always a bigger hurdle just with having fewer members. And also within this budget reconciliation process, we've got something called the Byrd Rule. And so that allows the Senate to just need a simple majority to pass this package. The one downside to having that upside is that this has to, all the measures within the bill have to be budget only. And the person that decides that is the Senate parliamentarian. So you can think of it as almost like she is a judge with a kind of very niche set of laws to abide by. So people have to make their case the same way a lawyer would in front of a judge in your local courthouse. So we ended up getting just 1 year to defund Planned Parenthood. So still, like you said, Joseph, a massive win for literally decades. I think around 3 decades is now the amount of time that the Republican Party and conservatives have really been pushing on this. So a huge win that's long overdue. I do want to say, even though it is a bummer we didn't get 10 years, Speaker Johnson has already talked about wanting to do more reconciliation packages in this Congress. So building upon those wins. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to build on this success and all the momentum that we have to continue to defund Planned Parenthood so that we can get to a point where they're no longer even able to be around to be able to collect this money. And also just to be able to keep pushing this down the line and making sure that it's the new status quo.
Absolutely. I think that's really important what you talked about, Dylan. There is a lot of controversy over this when it comes to Planned Parenthood. And the fact is that we have got a win, and going in with that mindset of like, okay, we've got a win, we're going to keep this and we're going to keep pushing, I think is so important, because we could allow ourselves to get a little discouraged. And especially as believers, that is not the attitude that God has given us. And so I really love your take on that. Can you tell us about the other big aspect of the bill that FPF has worked with our coalition allies on for years now, and that is school choice for all families in every state? What did the big, beautiful bill achieve here? And what else is needed in future federal legislation to finally ensure that every child gets the best education?
Yeah, certainly. And, this is, again, a huge and a massive win for folks that care about these issues, that care about school choice. Again, this is something for decades that was always a pie in the sky idea. It was something that, we promised we could do, that folks were promising on the campaign trail that would then get to Congress, and then everything fell short. So we're really thrilled to be able to talk about the school choice provision. So this will allow folks to not necessarily take money from the federal government, but be able to have a tax credit for deciding how they want to be able to raise and educate their kids. So absolutely awesome. Again, it wasn't the perfect piece of legislation, the perfect provision that we were hoping for. So like you mentioned, there's still future federal legislation that needs to occur. We're working with a lot of groups that work in this space, a lot of great allies. So we're still pushing for the ECCA, which would be a universal school choice for everybody nationwide. So currently right now, states have to opt in. So that'll go to their governor or their state legislature, depending on how each state divvies that up. So, potentially if you're in a state like California or New York, they may not opt into the program. But we're still hoping to be able to push on this. And again, with more reconciliation packages coming in the future, we're still excited to try and be able to push this over the finish line.
I might ask you to just follow up to that, Dylan, just add a little bit more color to that, because school choice, I know, is important to our audience, and we all know that. About 20-ish states have school choice as part of their state law. And for those who are not familiar with the notion of school choice, it is the simple idea that the parents' tax dollars should go to the education of their child, for the type of education that they know that is best for their child. So whether that's the local public school, whether it's the local private school, a charter school, a parochial school, the point is your tax dollars should go to that. And the status quo has been, if you did not want to send your child to the local public school that you are districted for, then you have to pay out of your own pocket, separate from your taxes, to send them to, for example, your local Catholic school. Well, under school choice, the best version of a school choice policy in your state, you can direct at least a portion of your tax bill every year to the education costs for your child at that Catholic school, to continue on with this example. The problem is, like I said, only about 20-ish states have adopted that so far. So the ECCA that you mentioned, Dylan, the Education Choice for Children Act, that's the ideal. If I hear you correctly, we didn't quite get that with this. but we did get something that's a stepping stone to that. So this is really, it's supposed to be a hope for kids and parents that are in states that don't have a state school choice law. What kind of hope does this provision of the big, beautiful bill give to them?
It does, yes. So that's perfectly said, Joseph. And so right now within the big beautiful bill, the bill would provide a dollar for dollar tax credit to individuals who donate to these scholarship granting organizations. So it's still much needed relief. There are no income limits or anything along those lines. And the program would be funded through those tax credits. So meaning that the government would forego that revenue that would have been collected from taxes. So it's still a win, but like I mentioned, there's much to build off of, and like you said, Joseph, the ECCA is still the gold standard. That's what we need to be working toward, so that just because you're a Catholic in New York City and you want to be able to take advantage of this, some governor doesn't get to tell you no. That you're still able to choose the school that best represents your values and will best educate your child.
That's terrific. And I think it'll also help in getting those governors on the record to say whether they support or oppose this policy, at least the idea of it or not, because school choice, despite what people might hear, is broadly popular across all demographics, all income levels. People at all parts of the social stratosphere essentially love school choice, and for good reason. So I think coming out of this, it sounds like a big part of the win itself will simply be governors like Gavin Newsom or Kathy Hochul saying whether they support parents or not and directing their tax dollars toward their kids. I mean, I think that sounds great personally, but not exactly what we're hoping for yet. So, but like you said, the speaker did say he's got a lot more plans before this Congress is over, and the new one takes his seats late next in 2026. So, thanks for all the work you've done on behalf of these aspects of the big beautiful bill. It's terrific. And hopefully our audience is encouraged from all that. But Congress is still in session. Speaker Johnson and his gang are still at work. And the big, beautiful bill has been signed by President Trump. It's being implemented right now as we speak. But Congress is still debating family issues in its continuing business. So the term that we're hearing in the news right now, if you follow this stuff like we do, or even just casually, is a term called rescission. And it's which should be seen by our audience, at least, as an opportunity for more family bills. But Dylan, I got to admit, I did not understand what rescission was until very recently. So I figure if I don't understand it, there's going to be some folks listening that probably need you to explain it to them at a pretty low level. So maybe you could just help us understand baseline for our audience. What exactly is rescission? And then how is it an opportunity to get more pro-family wins?
Certainly, Joseph. Yeah, and it's a great question, and it is funny too. I mean, with the reconciliation package that we just did, the last time we did that was almost 10 years ago. And fortunately, I was on the Hill, and it's a very young environment, so it was quite funny. Where there were very few people that had even gone through this before. And I'll tell you what, rescissions put the reconciliation process to absolute shame. The last time this was successfully done was, I believe, the late 90s under President Clinton. So there are not very many people who were, working for a senator who are still, or House member that are still there now that remember the last time that this was successfully done. But in short, a rescission is an act where the White House works in coordination with Congress, in which in which money has been already appropriated, and the administration is trying to claw back that money. So maybe the funds are misused, misappropriated, or not serving a solid purpose. And so what essentially has happened is the administration found all kinds of dollars that were going to all kinds of crazy things and said, hey, we want that money back. We don't want that to be used for that specific provision. And so a lot of the things that maybe parents are hearing about in the news or people are hearing about on TV or on social media, the craziest stuff like Sesame Street in Iraq or what have you. Those types of things are what are in this rescissions package. So I'd mentioned previously with President Clinton back in the 90s, I believe it was 98 or 99, the administration was able to claw back around $6 million that had been appropriated for a railroad fund that wasn't ended up going to be used or was improperly appropriated. So that was right around $6 million. So that's relatively normal. We have the opportunity here that the Senate just passed a couple of hours ago for billions of dollars in rescissions. We found all kinds of misuse of funds, waste, fraud, abuse. So this is really ripe for the picking.
That sounds like the Doge legacy living on here. So,
Truly.
9 billion. That's terrific.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Could you tell us a little more about what specifically is being debated in the rescission package, Dylan, and what's on the table for families over the next few weeks?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the biggest components are definitely in defunding NPR and PBS. And so I think what's important about that for families is, for folks of generations past, or, if you were to just look at the Wikipedia page, you'd see, oh yeah, that's Big Bird, that's Sesame Street, okay, those are great. The Department of Education working in conjunction with these groups, that was good stuff. I remember that when I was growing up. Unfortunately, it has really become a dark, insidious place where they're pushing all kinds of transgender ideology into this work. And it's gotten really, really nasty, and it's become extremely politicized. Just recently, the heads of PBS and NPR had to testify in front of Congress to speak about some of the things that they'd said in public or put on social media, or some of the programming that they'd put out. And they were just completely caught dumbfounded. Hey, why are you running a whole series about what queer ducks can tell American teenagers about sexuality? I mean, this is a series that was run that American taxpayers are paying for. Opponents will say, oh, this is, media that needs to get out to the people and it's completely unbiased. And that's just completely false. I mean, this even goes beyond, something that is anti-Christian. This is anti-Christian propaganda, but at the same time, just regular secular folks who, are apolitical. I mean, even they can say, okay, this is ridiculous. Why are we paying for this? In this day and age, we can get news from all over the place that is unbiased and normally straight from the source. So this is just really outdated. And unfortunately, this institution has just been completely taken over. So I think the main purpose for families in this rescissions package is to know that a lot of the woke propaganda, a lot of the transgender ideology, that's being stripped out of government once and for all. And again, it feels like we're really creating a building block here. This is something that we can be able to build on in the future and say, hey, we tried this, it didn't work, we're getting rid of it, and we're completely shutting it out for good. So I think it's helpful, and it's a nice exercise for Congress too, to realize, hey, just because something has been enshrined in law before, has been paid for before, doesn't mean that we need to keep doing it. The American people in November overwhelmingly selected sane and rational policies, and this is what they're going to get.
Oh, that's terrific news for so many parents, because I think of all the parents I know, and so many of them love programs like PBS Kids, but they have come to terms with the fact that they can't rely on it anymore for safe things for their kids, for programs that share their values. And hopefully something like this would help give them a little bit more security, because to be clear to our audience, PBS and NPR will go on. Like, they can fund themselves. That's not going to be a problem for them. So I don't want them to think this is going to threaten the existence of PBS or NPR, because there are some good programs on both of those platforms. But this is going to ensure that tax dollars from Americans are not funding a specific set of values, particularly values that are so opposed to their beliefs. Even at my car, my preset radio station is a local music station that is an NPR station. I only have it because I like the classical music that it plays. But every now and then I'll have to listen to one of their news updates, and the left-wing bias is just so obvious. I think all you're asking from them would be either give unbiased news and programming, or don't take federal funds, and we've opted for the latter. So hopefully that'll encourage people.
And that's a great point that you make, Joseph, too. And I want to add as well, that this is, in this case with NPR and PBS, this is for the American populace here at home in the United States. But so many of these provisions in the rescissions package as well are for what's going on abroad. And personally, I feel, what are we exporting as Americans? What are we exporting as Christians? What are we sending out to the world? There's lots of folks, there's billions of people around the world that may never come to the United States, but what are they going to know about us? So some of the things we're pulling back in, like I'd mentioned, Iraqi Sesame Street, but also I think it's $18 million for gender diversity in the Mexican street lighting industry. So people that are putting in street lights, making sure that there's gender diversity there. Or $2.5 million to make disaster aid more considerate of gender identity. Craziness. $3 million for sexual reproductive health in Venezuela. millions of dollars for condoms in Mozambique. I mean, this is just the kind of crazy
Those
stuff.
things are euphemisms for abortion too, just so our audience is clear.
Truly. I mean, and even within some of these things, it may, I mean, oftentimes in Congress, the title of the bill sounds great. And then you get into the weeds and it's like, what is going on here? So I think that this is important too for Americans to know that what's going out into the world is not just pushing this ideology either, because you can understand if someone's never interacted with an American before, never been to the United States, and all they know is that, we're focusing money in on abortion or all kinds of weird sexual reproductive health in places you've never heard of, or disaster aid, making it in line with gender identity. People are going to not view us properly, and they're not going to be wanting to listen to us if missionaries are coming to their town. They're going to say, no, you people are crazy. We know what you're doing, and you guys are filled with nonsense. So I think pulling this type of financial contributions out as well just helps our standing, and it helps us to spread the gospel when people do come to these countries, or when they come to the United States. They don't think of us as a bunch of crazy woke ideologues or transgender nonsense spouting wild people. They see us as who we are, people that are exporting Christian values.
I think that's a great point you made, Dylan, just about the fact that these policies and everything that America puts out to the world is more than just about the policies. It's about our witness. And as a nation that's been founded upon Christian principles and is viewed as a Christian nation by the world, I think that it's hugely important. And for everyone listening, the work that FPAF does is not just policy work, it is literally the Great Commission, because we are showing forth the message of Jesus through policy. And I believe that the gospel is supposed to be portrayed through every avenue of life. It's not literally just like walking up to someone on the street and telling them about Jesus. Our beliefs about abortion, our beliefs about family, our beliefs about protecting children are all encapsulated in the gospel message, the love of Jesus. And so I think that's such an important point that you make. And it's a point that carries such eternal weight to it as well, because this is people's salvation that hinges on their view of God as reflected by us as a Christian nation. So I would love to hear just some of your overarching thoughts on how Christians can think through this process from a biblical worldview and what they can be praying about as all of this moves forward.
Yeah, I think praying over the members of Congress and the folks within the administration is always really important. These people have a lot of work to do, a lot of things to get done, and I think just praying for peace, for wisdom, and being able to find the right way ahead. There's going to be lots of disturbances, frustrations, debates that get rough, crazy rhetoric. So I think that a prayer for cooler heads to prevail would be really, really lovely. Just knowing that people are working hard at this, but also that that there can be kindness and love amongst everyone. We're all trying to be lights in the dark here, and so I think that would be really, really helpful. But to know too that they've got a lot of great people in Washington D.C. working to advance the kingdom, and you can hear on the news all the time all the terrible things. But do know that there's a lot of folks that share their values and that are working very hard to advance them here and advance the kingdom and share the gospel. So I really appreciate that you said that, Grace. And, we welcome prayers from everybody because we certainly need it here in town.
You've given our audience a great window into that, Dylan, in this episode. I mean, hopefully our audience knows that there are a lot of swamp creatures in DC, but there's also a lot of people like you who are kingdom believers, kingdom warriors who are trying to advance our kingdom through Washington. So thanks for all that you let our audience into or in on through this episode. Excellent debut on House to Home for you. It definitely won't be the last that our audience hears from you. So thank you for that. And thanks to our audience for listening to us. As always, House to Home is a podcast of Family Policy Alliance Foundation. I'm Joseph Kohm, as always, alongside Grace Youngson. And Dylan Jeremiah, our Government Affairs Director, joined us today. We're here every week. Every week we have a new episode of House to Home out. So please, if you're listening, hit the follow button on Spotify, hit subscribe if you're on Apple Pods or YouTube, and you'll get the newest episode every week delivered into your inbox or your notifications. And that really helps us grow. So we're asking for your support there. And we're just thankful for you listening. So if you like this kind of content, connect with FPAF on social media at family_policy on all the major platforms. So thanks to our audience. Thanks to Dylan. And we will see y'all again next week.